One of the things my family and I do on Thanksgiving is we go around the table with everybody and we say, what are we thankful for? At least that's what we used to do about maybe 20, 30 years ago. And then I remember bringing this up as a young adult. I said, well, that's great that we're thankful for certain things and all, but who gave you those things and who are you thankful to? So we began tagging on the end of what we're thankful for, that we're thankful to God for providing all those good things in our life. In even more recent years, I have added what I call being thankful for the two and the four, or the 2x4 that sometimes hits us, right between the eyes, and yet we're thankful for it. I'm talking about the valleys of the shadow of death that we go through. And we can end up being thankful for because, as Psalm 23 says, we'll fear no evil because God's with us. And learning that God is with you and learning that God is growing you and developing you, not even just through the trials, but especially through the trials, is a difficult lesson that I think most believers never learn. And I learned it, and this year have shared that I'm thankful for losing my job as a pastor 2 years ago in Colorado. Now, it took me a long time to be thankful for that, because I was, honestly, for a while, I was bitter and angry at people who I thought were my friends, who never even talked to me again. Shortly, really, after I did a 5-week series on truth and love, and I talked about some of the things that the church nowadays calls the untouchables. I talked about, what does God really think about transgenderism, and how can we love people going through that? What does God really think about abortion? Should the church just ignore it? What does God really think about sex outside of marriage? All the things the church doesn't want to talk about if they want to keep their seats full. Well, we talked about that, and our church actually grew. But some of the elders who were wanting to take the church in a more progressive and read here or hear anti-God direction weren't so happy with that. And the long and short of it is, about 8 months later, after the tragic and untimely deaths of the two probably most beloved people at the church. One of them was a good friend of mine, and he died of a heart attack 6 months earlier. He was an elder. Another elder died during COVID, and during that whole time. They were the most conservative, Bible-believing elders that we had. Once they passed away, it was pretty much just me and a couple of liberals or a couple of elders who, wanted church to be more of a, I think, kind of a place to gather and talk about Jesus facts, the safe ones, not his holiness or anything like that. We don't need to really get into all that. But when there's a split like that, there's going to be rough seas until something changes. Well, the something that changed was I was pushed out. And I was angry and bitter about that for a long time, because not only was I pushed out, but they couldn't share the reasons that, hey, this guy preaches things we'd rather have him not preach, tough subjects. But, lies were made up and slander was said so that they could pull that off without hopefully affecting the church too much. Very, very tough valley to go through. Why am I thankful for it now? Because I was starting some things at the church in Colorado and just putting kind of half effort into it. I started a YouTube channel, an apologetics ministry to reach people and to talk about those tough questions online. And I gave it as much spare time as I had, but I really didn't give it enough. That was my heart, and that was my direction for the church, especially after COVID. I felt like people really needed to hear about the holiness of God, and that God is a God of love, but God's also a God of holiness. They go together, they're inseparable. You try to take them apart, the patient probably won't live if you try a separation like that. It's not more unifying, it's a death sentence. Well, after I was forced out, I began to see that, not only can I pursue my passion, but I've got to. What choice do I have? So I went with every effort I had over the last 2 years in building an apologetics ministry and an evangelical outreach online that God has really blessed. Facebook's grown to 50-some thousand followers, hearing about the love of Christ. Instagram's grown to 30,000. The YouTube channel that church took away and tried to shut down, I restarted it, and now in 1/3 the time, it's grown almost back to where it was in a time that took me 2.5 years to build. So I guess my message to you right now is, what brought about this better place where I'm at right now? Well, a valley. Not just the things I was thankful for, and not just being thankful to God, but being thankful for the 2x4 that he hit me right in the middle of my spiritual life with in 2022. Listen, Christ follower, I would encourage you, if you're in a valley right now, especially at a time, and it's difficult when you gather around the table Thanksgiving, to be thankful for anything or thankful to anyone, remember that those valleys God calls you to, he doesn't actually call you to, he calls you through. Remember Psalm 23? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. It doesn't say, yea, though I walk to the valley of the shadow of death. When God sends you to valleys, he almost always is trying to teach you something that will make you a better representation of Christ on the other side. And that's what he's done in my life. Was the valley tough? Sure. Was it dark? Absolutely. Was it worth it? Yes. And I think I'm only beginning to see what God's going to do for his glory through this. So I'm officially stating for the record, I am actually thankful for the 2x4 of July of 2022 that set me and my family on the path to make an even greater impact for the glory of God than ever before. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Take care and God bless.